Welcome back to Essence of Design, a popular painting program brought to you by the Park Forest Public Library. If you're following along with us today, this is the time to set up your station and get out your materials from your Essence of Design kits. We are going to be painting a portrait of a bird with some flowers today, so let's begin. Alright, so in your kits, you guys should have an instruction sheet that has a reference photo on the back side that I will be propping up there throughout the video. You should have your paints, which you have black, white, dark blue, light blue, pink, and yellow, an 8x8 inch canvas panel. You should have 3 brushes of varying sizes. I think everybody got different size brushes, but different brushes, but they're all 3 varying sizes. Then you should also have a template for a bird, which you will need to cut out, so grab some scissors as well. I also have 3 cups of water today, a couple paper towels to wipe my brushes, and with that, it is time to begin. So go ahead and start opening your paint. The first thing we're going to start with today is our background. So you are going to want to take your biggest brush in a minute. Please be careful opening your paints too, by the way. Sometimes it gets a little tricky. But okay, so you're going to start with your white paint, and you're going to take a small circle towards the middle of your canvas. That is going to be your light source behind the bird, as you can see from the reference photo. Side note, everybody, just so you know, I do have this video sped up, so I do not paint this fast. This is a sped up version. There's no need to paint this fast. Take your time. But okay, so you're going to paint out your source of light in the background above the bird. I'm painting my circle way bigger because I want to be able to blend this blue paint into that white circle, as you can kind of see in the video right now. I'm going to define that circle more with the blue paint, but I'm going to go around, and light blue, by the way, as you already have noticed. It's kind of got a little tealish coloration to it, but this will work just fine for what we need to do. So go ahead and work on your background. You are going to keep the white in the middle as clean as you can. If it does mix in with the blue, that's okay. You can add more white on top of it. It will be all right. Remember from previous videos, I know I've mentioned this, but if you've forgotten, acrylic paint is incredibly buildable. You are totally able to paint over it once it dries. If it is wet and you start painting over it, it will blend. So be mindful of that. As you can see, I am finishing out the blue in the background, and as I go, I'm blending it in with my white circle. An incredibly helpful tip that you guys should keep in mind throughout the course of your painting today is that a little bit of paint will go a long way. That's pretty much my motto in these Essence of Design painting tutorials. You do not need to glob on your paint. All you need is a little bit, and it will go a long way. You will have more than enough paint left over in your paint pots after this to give second coats. I did do a second coat of the blue around my light source, but I believe I did do that off camera while I was waiting for it to dry. So feel free at any point in time to pause this video to give yourself second coats of anything. You will have paint to do it. Like I said, you do not need a lot of paint. Also keep in mind that you need to clean your brushes. If you do not clean your brushes, your colors will get muddied. So, if you want it to stay pure white in your light source, make sure you clean your brush thoroughly. You will notice that mine does get a little muddied with the blue. I don't mind that slightly blue tint, it's okay. If you guys don't mind too, you can salvage that by adding more white paint to the middle and blending it out as much as you can. I think it kind of helps the painting a little bit to have it slightly tinted blue, just so you can see that it is a light source going into the blue. But if you don't like that, just wait till it dries and go over it with white. As you can see, I am blending out my light source and trying to blend in that blue seamlessly. A lot easier said than done. But as you can see, I'm going back in with the white to make that light source pop. Our next step is going to be doing the branches to this painting. So you're going to want to take your smallest brush that you have in your kit, and you're going to dip that in the black paint. Now, the key to making nature look natural is to just let it happen. I'm not going to sketch out any branches with a pencil prior to this. I'm literally just going to start drawing in lines. Nothing is going to look identical. I'm not going to try and actually do exactly what the painting that we're referencing has. Just flow. You can lightly paint in the lines and then go back in, kind of how I am right now, where the first line looked kind of, you know, scratchy and not very bold, and then go back in with the black paint. But you definitely just want to go with the flow. The more you try to calculate where these branches go, the less natural and nature-ish it will look. So as you can see, I'm just kind of going in random places. Please keep in mind, too, though, that you are putting a bird in the middle of this painting. So try to be mindful when you're painting the branches to leave a space for your bird to perch. And then you can, you don't have to necessarily start the branches in the same point I did. I just want the branches to frame where that bird's going to be. So I started in the left-hand corner, and I'm going around my light source. And then make sure you add a bunch of little ones. They can be off the page, too, or paint them off the page. You just want it to look full. You're also going to be filling these branches with your blossoms and floral additives, so make sure that you leave space for that as well. It's totally okay if you make the branches overlap, because in nature, branches tend to grow over each other. All right, and the branch I'm painting right now on screen is going to be the branch that our bird actually perches on in this painting. So as you can see, I'm going to put the template in there to kind of make sure that I sized that correctly and positioned that correctly. I'm placing the branch that the bird perches on slightly under the light source because the bird should be our center image in this painting. So we definitely want it to have the light source behind it so that bird pops on this painting. As you can see too on the painting, I am overlapping my branches as I spoke about earlier. Nature grows all over the place. I've never seen a tree with perfectly grown branches in specific directions. At least I personally in nature haven't. I'm sure maybe it does exist somewhere, but not in my world. So just go ahead and be very random with that and just be fluid with it. The fluidity of these branches and this tree is what's going to make it seem natural and not forced and, you know, symmetrical. We don't need that. We want it to be all over the place. So, and then go ahead and get those branches. I do have some of mine coming from the side as off canvas to give that dimension of the branches are wrapping around the light source, because again, we want that bird to be center, but we don't want it to be empty on the sides. And keep in mind too, you will be painting floral flowers and blossoms on these, so if that helps you determine how far or how wide apart you have them positioned, just keep that in mind as you go. If you notice that your branches are starting to dry and they're just a little patchy, or you can see the blue through them or anything like that, you will definitely have more than enough black paint to go ahead and go over those once they are dry. Again, I highly recommend that you wait for the paint to dry if you're going to do multiple coats, mainly because if you put the paint on too early, you risk bringing the paint up and having like a really weird splotch on your canvas that just won't let the paint sit. This has happened to me many a time, so try your best to avoid that. It's worth the wait to let your painting dry before you put on multiple coats. Trust me. All right, and then once we have our branches done, we are going to probably start with our bird, but yeah, keep in mind that you want to fill as much as you can without overfilling. Don't do too many branches because that's a lot of black paint on there, but also keep in mind that we will be putting white and pink flowers over it, so it will take away from the darkness that we're adding to the painting right now. If it kind of looks a little spooky, like a Halloween painting right now, then you're on the right track. Kind of looks like we're just painting a bunch of dead trees around a white circle, but that is essentially what we're doing for now because we are trying to show a new beginning with the welcoming of spring. Spring blossoms, birds chirping. That is the energy or the vibe we're trying to give off with this painting. And as you guys know, after winter comes spring. So those dead trees do blossom into something beautiful. This painting will do the same thing. Another reminder to make sure that when you are done painting your branches that you effectively clean your brushes so that black paint does not linger. Our next step is going to be making our bird. And what I did was I cut this out off camera. We are going to place our bird in the center of the painting so it looks as though it is perched on our branch, and I'm going to trace it very lightly with a pencil. I didn't trace it as lightly as I would have liked to, just so I could kind of show you guys, so it would show up on camera, the pencil marks. However, I advise you to trace as lightly as you can, because sometimes, depending on what colors you use, pencil will show through acrylic. However, we will be using a darker blue and black as our base colors for this bird, so you may not necessarily need to be that light with the pencil drawing, but I would just recommend it as a habit to get into. You want to draw as lightly as possible. You are going to take your smallest brush and you are going to put it in that dark blue paint. That is what we're going to start with. We're going to fill in the head of the bird, at least the outline of the head, and the back. Now, I'm not going to paint this entire bird blue because, as you can see from the reference photo, the entire bird is not blue. So I bet you're wondering too, why are you just painting this solid blue? There's black in there, there's white in there. Yes, there is, and we are going to show that as well, as you saw from the reference photo, but we will blend those colors in. So go ahead and put that blue down. Now, I know I've been stressing, hey, you only need a little bit of paint, which is true, but it's okay to be a little bit thicker with this particular paint because we are going to be blending colors into it. Now go ahead and get that blue down, and once you get the blue down, we're going to put in some white. Now I'm adding in this white to kind of lighten the blue a little bit, add a little bit of highlight in this bird's belly area, and then I'm also trying to give it the effect that there's feathers, which is a lot easier said than done as well. This is my first time actually painting a bird, so I did what I thought would work, and with the finishing product, the finished product, I think it did give the effect I wanted it to. This is definitely something I'm going to want to practice though, so you're going to want to kind of dab that color in. As you can see, I'm kind of just dabbing in the color. It is mixing with that blue, but it is giving it kind of a weird, not feathery texture, but it's giving it some sort of texture, which is the illusion I'm trying to create. So if you think it's getting too muddied with that white, go ahead and add more blue on the top, but keep that belly as white or as highlighted as you can. Once you do that, you can do a little bit of that light too by where you think the bird's, I guess, cheek, if you will, would be. And towards the back of the head where that black's going to be, you can add some white as well. Once you have that blue and white in, you're going to go ahead and paint in the bird's tail. And with that too, you can kind of blend that into the blue. It's probably better to just take your time with that and be precise with the tail, and then don't focus too much on blending that black with that blue, because even though it's not pictured in our stencil, we will be adding a wing. We'll draw in the wing after we get this black paint in. You're going to want the black paint to round out that bottom as well of the bird after you get the black paint in towards the tail. And once you do that as well, you can kind of start drawing in that wing, kind of like how I did right now on the video. And then go ahead and put that black paint in. Be mindful too though not to put too much black paint in, because when you do start doing the white, it will muddy. It's pretty much inevitable. We're working with wet paint, so a lot of our colors will muddy together, but we kind of want them to in certain spots because we want to layer the highlight of the white on them. So I'm going to start shaping the bird's head, adding to the wing a little bit to smooth it out. And then go ahead too, in that bottom part, you can start adding in your white. Now I'm blending the white paint into the blue paint with the intention to add more white on top to give it that lighter look. Again, you're using your smallest brush for this. You are going to be able to do really fine details as well, but you have to be very light with your brush when the time comes. As you can see, I'm adding in a little bit of highlight to the tail and the feather, kind of like the reference photo shows. I feel like I used a little bit too much white though, so I will be going back over that a little bit with black paint in certain areas just to kind of take away from all the white paint I put in there. Now the key to making this bird kind of come to life on our canvas is definitely layering. Now you may feel like, oof, I put too much paint on, there's too much happening right now. If you're concerned about how your bird is looking, let it dry and then take care of it from there. It's okay to let it dry and come back to it later. You don't have to blend how I am. If you think it would be beneficial for you to just let that white paint dry and then add the black in, that's fine. So keep that in mind as you're going. Go ahead and paint that bird's beak black, and I made mine slightly skinnier than the template called for, but I was trying to mimic our reference photo a little more. And then you're also going to take black paint on the very tip of your tiniest brush and use light brush strokes to give the effect of feathers on that belly. You can do the same thing with the white paint when your wing and your tail is a little bit more dry, and you're also going to do the same thing on the black paint that surrounds the bird's head and neck and breastbone area. So go ahead, and I'm doing another coat of the black around the head just to, you know, nail in there that that is black and not just a muddied black and blue concoction of chaos. But you're definitely going to want to darken that a little bit, and it will basically contrast the blue and the white that is also in the bird, really making it pop. You're also going to add in a little bit, I added in a little bit more blue in the head after I did that, just to kind of blend in more blue. As you can see in our reference photo, our bird is very much blue, dark blue, you know, and I didn't want it to be too muddied and not have the similar feature. I went ahead and drew in the legs. You can also draw in a second leg if you feel the need. I think I do that later in the video because I realized the reference photo had two displayed and I had only had the one that the template had. But you can do whatever you think looks best for you. I'm going to go back in and add a couple more white highlights to the bird, probably on the back of the head, the neck area, and the stomach area for that bird. Now keep in mind too, in between all these colors, please be mindful to clean out your brushes. If not, your colors will muddy, which I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing me say, but hey, you can never be too careful when it comes to mixing colors. Then I'm adding a little bit more black paint into the tail to get rid of some of this huge white highlights I got in there because I just wasn't really a fan of those. Go ahead and take some black paint and dab it towards the eye. Position that however you want. I kind of lined mine up with the beak and towards the middle. And then I lightly dotted the outside of that eye with white paint and then gave it a white pupil. Once you have that done, you are done with your bird. This is where I go back in and add my second foot because I felt like, you know what, it was missing and it needed it. So, and you have that option to either do exactly what your template says or do how you feel you should draw. All right, so now it is time to start with the floral and the blossoms on our painting. So go ahead and take the biggest brush that you guys have in your kit and dip that into the white paint pot. I started with the tips of the branches because I feel like that looks the best to make sure all the tips of the branches are definitely painted on. I did a mix of white and pink, so don't feel like you have to do every single tip with the white paint. But there really is no science to painting these blossoms. You just want to pick different spots that are open and just start filling them in. You can probably notice from the video that when you put that white paint on, you can still kind of see through it. That will be the same for everyone. You have more than enough paint in your kit to do at least 1 or 2 more coats on those white blossoms or flowers. So keep that in mind when you're painting. I would recommend waiting for those to dry before you go in with a second coat, as I've stated before. But Don't worry if you feel like they're not white enough or pink enough. You do have enough paint to do multiple coats. Keep in mind while you're doing the white blossoms that you do have another color that you're more than welcome to use for the blossoms. I definitely wanted to use both, but that's entirely up to you and what you have in mind for the vision of your painting. But you do have pink to work with as well, so don't overfill the white if you're trying to put in pink as well. And then you really can't have too many blossoms. If anything, go do what I did and just paint what you think works with the white, then go in with the pink. And if you think you need more white or pink after the fact, you'll definitely be able to go in and do more. So go ahead and get those blossoms in. As you can see, I'm also painting in a couple flowers. I believe I did 2 white ones and 2 pink ones when I painted. So keep that in mind. You don't want to put too many blossoms and not do any flowers, because that won't that'll take away from the entire image. So, but go ahead and get those all painted in. I usually went in and did a second coat on my blossoms as I went along. You'll see me do another coat on the flowers too when we add the yellow in, which you'll see that soon enough. So go ahead and clean out your brush thoroughly, because we are going to move on to our pink paint pot so we can start our pink blossoms and pink flowers. Again, just like you did with the white paint previously, you are going to make small little blossoms, circular or oval-like shapes off the sides of the branches. Go ahead and fit the pink in wherever you think it should go. Again, like I stated before, there's no science behind this. There's no right way to paint these blossoms. There's no wrong way either, to be honest. If you want to put a bunch, if you don't want any at all, that is entirely up to you. Do keep in mind that we are trying to embody the idea of spring, new life, new beginnings, flowers blooming, birds chirping. So I would recommend putting in a lot of that pink and white to bring color to this and make it pop. Also keep in mind, like I said with the white, you are going to be able to see your branches through the pink paint on its first coat. It is a darker color than the white, however, it will show through. So keep in mind that you can do second coats of all this. As you go along, you can probably see that your painting is starting to really come to life and that it's starting to very much resemble what we have in our reference photo. Feel free to also include more of the white blossoms after you've put in your pink. I noticed once I put the pink in that I just felt like I didn't have enough white blossoms to complement, so I do go back in and add more white when the time comes. So I'm going to clean my brush, as you guys should do too. If you decide that you want to add in more white, please, please, please clean your brush first. Otherwise, you're going to get a very weird shade of pink as your blossom. Actually though, if you want to add a third color of blossom into your painting, you can go ahead and mix the white and pink a little bit. To anyone who wants to experiment with color mixing, I recommend mixing it in the top part of the paint pot and using that color from there. Now, you will not see an example of that in this painting. However, that is always an option. If you guys are comfortable, if you have the skill to do that, feel free to do that. I would love to see how it turns out. If you guys do choose to mix the white and the pink to add a third color, please feel free to email me your finished product so I can share it on our social media platforms. Now keep in mind, we are thoroughly cleaning our brushes before we are continuing to our next step. I'm going to start painting over the flowers that I painted, so they are very much white and very full, and then we're going to start adding in the yellow. So I'm going to mix that yellow together a little bit, and I'm going to dot 3 dots in the middle of our white flower, and then to give that a little bit more color, I am going to mix a little pink in there so it gives it an orangish, pinkish, yellowish hue to it. Now once you have that paint mixed in too, I'm going to pick a couple random white blossoms. I'm not going to do all of them, but I'm going to pick a couple of them to just give a little bit more color and life into. Go ahead and add a little bit of pink and yellow paint that's already mixed together, kind of lightly at the bottom of those blossoms, and then take your brush that you made the blossoms with that has white paint on it and blend that up a little bit. If you notice that it's too yellow or too pink, let it dry a little bit or go over it again with a little bit more white paint. If this is entirely optional as well, I was trying to pull inspiration from our reference photo and do a little bit of extra color in those blossoms. But if that's not something you are interested in, do not feel like you have to do it. It's just an added touch that I think really brings a little bit more color and a little bit more life and naturalness into our painting. And then with our next flower, you're going to want to do the same thing. Go ahead and add another coat of white paint, a little bit of orange and or not orange, a little bit of pink and yellow to make orange for those 3 dots in the middle of the flowers. If you make a mistake like you saw me do just now on this video, you can see how easy it is to fix that said mistake. Now this flower will have a slightly yellow tint to it, my fault of course, but I'm going to fix it by adding in another layer of white paint to blend out that yellow and then add in my 3 dots again. It's very easy to make mistakes when you're painting. Sometimes I drop my brush, which you probably saw earlier in the video as well. Sometimes I accidentally stick my hand on there and smear the paint. It's okay. Everything that you do in this painting can be fixed if you do make a mistake. Do not get discouraged. Art is not supposed to be a cookie cutter project. You are allowed to have creative freedom, and mistakes are just happy accidents. You may know Bob Ross. He would tell you the same thing. And hopefully you've cleaned your brush before you've started with more pink, but I'm going to go ahead and paint over those pink flowers to give them a little bit more of a bold color so they don't look so faded and so you can't see the branches through them. I'm going to do that with the flowers. I'm going to do that with the blossoms, just like I did for the white. The only difference with the pink and white blossoms is I will not be adding the yellow and pink mixture or that orange kind of tint to those blossoms. Because they're so pink already, I don't think that's necessary. Just adding a little bit more color to the white ones just gives it a little bit more of a nature vibe to it. As you know, a lot of flowers in nature do have other colors in them when they are white, so we're having that grow through as well. And then go ahead and do your second coats when your blossoms are dry. I think you can already tell on the camera, but doing that second coat really goes a long way when it comes to this pink. I feel like it takes it from that really dark maroon looking color and really makes it more of a brighter pink, which is what we're going for because we want those bright colors to come through for springtime. All right, once you've done that second coat of those pink flowers and blossoms, your last step with the flowers is going to be to take your tiny brush and add your yellow dots in the middle of the flowers. Now keep in mind, you're more than welcome to incorporate more blossoms and flowers after this if you feel like everything isn't full enough. If you have the space, go ahead and add them in. And then once you are done with that, you have your finished spring masterpiece. Hopefully yours looks something like mine or something like the reference photo. If not, that's okay. I'm sure it looks awesome. Your final step is to take your tiniest brush, some black paint, and initial in the bottom right corner so everybody knows that you completed this masterpiece. On the left, we are going to have our new finished work. On the right was our reference photo. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's lesson. If you guys are interested in checking out some of our previous Essence of Design courses and workshops, you can find them on our YouTube channel where you found this one. Keep in mind that we will have Essence of Design in the future too. Just stay tuned on the library's calendar at www.pfpl.org. See you next time.